And what I mean by that is most of us are trying to do way too much in that first meeting. And if we would stop trying to do so much, we would actually get more second meetings. We'd get more people moving on faster and actually becoming clients. We try to put way too much into that initial meeting.
Welcome to another episode of The Advisor Edge, the show where possibility pulls back the curtain on what actually moves the needle for modern financial advisors. I'm Rob Thomas, and in today's episode, we're handing you a fast, field-tested way to turn first conversations into second meetings, and second meetings into new clients. You'll hear Chris Smith break down the questions that close and the 4 non-negotiable parts of every sales conversation. If you've ever felt like you were presenting more than you were connecting, well, this replay is for you. Grab your notebook and let's jump in.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here. The Advisor Edge series is a newer series that we wanted to do just to add value to the industry and help more advisors be more successful. I think if you guys don't know a little bit of background about us, we've been in the industry coaching, consulting advisors for over 10 years now. And so we love this space. This is the space we work in exclusively. I was a financial advisor. So specifically what I wanted to talk about today is questions that close, like questions that close business. I am curious by a show of hands, or you can put in the chat, Mason, David, Brian, I know you, obviously. Are you, Mason, David, are you guys financial advisors? Are you in the industry? Okay, awesome. So we don't have a lot of time on these Advisor Edge trainings. And so I want to deliver something that's like actionable, insightful, and do it really quickly. One of the things that I would say we find consistently across the board in this industry is financial advisors are talking way too much in their client discovery meetings. I'm sure you guys have never been guilty of that. I had been guilty of that at times. Anyone want to guess what the only purpose of a client discovery meeting is? So when we do a client discovery meeting, go ahead, David.
To add value.
Okay. Add value. And how would we know if it accomplished its job?
If we had some kind of actionable thing that we could do, we could illustrate money savings or some kind of plan or something we're doing.
Okay, potentially. But even if we did that, so let's say we did that. Let's say we added value, we demonstrated some money savings, but how would we know if the client discovery meeting did its job?
If we shut up long enough to find out.
Okay. What else? Any other ideas?
You get the next meeting.
We get the next meeting. So I know that sounds so simple, but one thing I try to tell advisors all the time is the client discovery meeting only has one job, and that's to get the second meeting. And what I mean by that is most of us are trying to do way too much in that first meeting. And if we would stop trying to do so much, we would actually get more second meetings. We'd get more people moving on faster and actually becoming clients. We try to put way too much into that initial meeting. We try to cram too much stuff in there. We try to say too much. So that's just a really useful place to start, is like, if we could just remember, the only thing I have to do in the initial meeting is get the second meeting. If it's a fit. And sometimes, at the end of the first meeting, it's not going to be a fit. You don't want to, waste their time or yours. We have a firm right now, different model. They have 25 financial advisors. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in online lead generation. They're a completely virtual digital company. They do all their client discovery meetings over Zoom. They don't see any clients ever in person. And they've hired us to help them with their story and their messaging and their sales. When they first came to us, on average, their financial advisors were talking about 30 minutes in each client discovery meeting, presenting what they did and how they did it. We've now gotten them down to 3 to 5 minutes, and their conversions have gone through the roof. Literally in the first meeting, they spend about 3 to 5 minutes talking about what they do as a firm, and they have more people than ever before moving to the second meeting. So part of this idea of questions that close, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a bonus today. Every sales call only has 4 parts. And if we could know and remember that every sales call just has 4 parts, we could be so much more effective because we would know what part we're in when we're there. Because a lot of times sales just feels like this run-on conversation, and it starts to get overwhelming. There's only 4 parts of a sales conversation: the framing, the discovery, the presentation, and the close. And every time you have one, those are the 4 parts: the framing, the discovery, the presentation, and the close. So let's say you follow those 4 parts really effectively in a first meeting and you get a second one. Well, guess what are the 4 parts of the second meeting? The framing, the discovery. Like, you're never not going to do these 4 parts. And that's where we see, sometimes we help advisors, they start doing a really good job following our framework in the first meeting. But then they think like, well, I did so well in the first meeting. I earned the second meeting. Now I can just do whatever I want and talk a lot. It's like, no, you'll screw it up in the second one. So you're either going to screw it up in the first meeting or the second one or the third one. And so it's like these principles apply no matter what. Now, the sad reality is that most advisors spend the least amount of time in discovery and the most amount of time in presentation. And we're really trying to get them to flip that, so especially in the first meeting. You want to spend the majority of the meeting in discovery, asking questions. That's how we've gotten this company now to spend the majority of the meeting. They spend a little bit of the meeting framing, which I'll share with you how to do that. They spend the bulk of the meeting in discovery. They do a tiny bit of presentation at the end, and then they commit them to the second meeting. So that would just be something useful to look at right now and go back and think about, okay, let me think about my kind of initial client discovery meetings. Let me think about that first meeting I usually have with someone. How much am I presenting? And I don't just mean how long, how much. So what I find is most advisors are presenting way too much stuff for too long. And the reality is they just don't care in that first meeting. The only thing they care about in that first meeting is, do I think you could help me? And if so, that's all I need to know to get the second meeting. You're going to have time to tell them the stuff in the second and third meeting. You don't need to tell them all the stuff in the first meeting. So as a principle, I'm just telling you, and I have to remind myself of this, like, we got to stop sharing so much stuff in the first meeting. Okay. So questions that close. A big mistake that a lot of advisors are making in their discovery meetings is they don't ask any commitment questions throughout the meeting. And then they go for this really big commitment at the end of the meeting. And it feels really heavy to the person. Then they feel like they're being sold to. So we call these like micro commitment questions. So the first micro commitment question you're going to want to ask is at the very beginning of the meeting. And this is in the framing. How many of you ever, by show of hands, how many of you do or have started the meeting with, after you exchange some pleasantries and small talk, how many of you have ever been like, hey, so what brought you in today? Or, well, hey, what had you want to get on the call with us? Okay. I've done that too. Okay. We're going to stop doing that immediately. That is not how we want to start conversations. It's not a powerful start. And what you're doing without knowing it, you're turning the meeting over to someone who's terrified to be there. But they don't want to be in control of the meeting. So, and a lot of times they don't even know what brought them there. They're just like, so there's a much more effective way to start the meeting. And here's how I would demonstrate it. So I'm going to pretend like I'm doing this with Mason. So Mason, if you and I you're a prospective client of mine, I'm a financial advisor. And Mason, do you mind taking yourself off mute? Sure. Do you do majority of your discovery meetings in person or virtually or combo?
A combination of both. I mean, I would say my actual what I consider my actual discovery meeting is a kind of like a mind map type situation. It's in person, but the initial, I guess, before we schedule, that's over the phone.
And how long do those usually last, Mason?
With the phone call or the discovery meeting?
Yeah, the initial phone call to see if we should even have a discovery meeting.
20 minutes, maybe.
Okay. And I would still, even in that 20-minute, I'm following the same structure of frame, discovery, a little presentation, close. So whether I have 10 minutes or 10 hours, so Mason, will you role play with me?
Sure.
So I'm going to be you. You're going to be a prospective client. We're going to pretend like this is over Zoom. We're going to pretend like we've already done can you hear me? No, I can't hear you. Can you, like, all of that stuff's taken care of.
Okay.
So I'm going to say, so we're finally connected. And I'm like, Mason, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's your day going so far?
Been busy, but pretty good.
Awesome. Yeah, really great. Same busy day. Where are you located? Where are you calling in from?
I'm in Dallas.
Oh, awesome. Well, man, I just want to say, first and foremost, I know we don't have a ton of time. Dude, just thank you for being here. I recognize that you could be doing anything. And the fact that you chose to spend a little bit of time with me, like, super honored. And would it be okay if I just kind of told you how this is going to go and like what we'll do in our time together?
Sure. Yeah.
So first thing, this is all about you today. Like, I'm here to add value to you, whether we ever work together or end up meeting again or not. My only intention is to serve you. And really, there's no pressure to today's meeting. The only decision you and I will make today is if we meet again. And the promise I'll make to you is if I think we can help you, I'll ask that we set up a longer meeting. If I don't think we can help you, I'll tell you that so I don't waste any of your time. But regardless, I'll try to do everything I can to add value to you today. Does that sound fair?
It does. Yeah.
Okay. That's how you frame a meeting. You just remove all the pressure. You tell them what your intention is. I'm going to add value to you, whether we work together or not. The only decision we're going to make today is if we have a second meeting. And you'll literally, if you start doing this, you'll literally see people be like, because they don't know what you're going to do. They don't know if you're going to try to sell them something. They don't know if they're going to have to make a hard decision. So you just frame it up and tell them. And the key is that question I asked at the end, does that sound fair? Yes, that's a micro commitment. And it does sound fair because it is. And I'm authentic in that. I'm not going to I'm going to do exactly what I said. I'm going to add value to you. If Mason, I said, does that sound fair? Mason goes, yeah. It's like, okay, perfect. So here's what we're going to do, Mason. Man, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions only because I want to get to know you, get to know your situation so that I can see if we can add value to you. I'll let you ask some questions of me. And again, at the end, we'll either part as friends or we'll set up a second meeting where we can go even further. You've just taken control of the meeting. You've put them at ease. You've told them exactly what we're going to do. You've let them know what the decision will be at the end. But that question is really, really important. Does that sound fair?
I have a question. Like, can you repeat how you said, I'm here to add value to you, whether we work together or not. And by the end of this meeting, I'll know if we can help you. We'll schedule another.
Yeah.
Can you repeat how you said that?
Yeah. So I just say, hey, our intention is to add value to you, whether we work together or not. And the only decision we're going to make today is if we have a second meeting. There's no pressure. And you want to let them know there is no pressure because there is no pressure. Because now, do you think that most people that get on these 15-minute calls with us or these 1-hour meetings, do you think they're feeling a little bit of pressure? Yeah. Even though they want to be there, they're like, man, am I going to, and if we don't alleviate any of that pressure, that's rattling around in their minds the whole meeting. So they hear very little of what we say. So we alleviate the pressure. My second favorite question that's designed, see, we think that the sale is made at the end. The sale is made in discovery. What happens at the end of the meeting is simply a reflection of what we did or didn't do in discovery. And so I can't emphasize enough how important discovery is. And we don't have time today to really talk about what it means to do discovery, but I'm going to tell you, you want to spend the majority of your time in discovery, really getting to know them, really getting to know who they are, what's important to them, what their goals are, what their dreams are that they probably never even talk about because they don't think they're possible, what their challenges are, how long they've been thinking about those challenges, right? Then here's the most effective question we have ever developed in sales. But you have to earn the right to ask this question. If you ask this question too early, they're going to feel like you're trying to sell them something. But if you've really taken the time to get to know them, if you've really taken the time to understand them, and then you ask this question, it's really useful. And so the question would be, David, let's pretend that you and I I've framed up the conversation. Does that sound fair? And you're like, yeah. I go, okay, so I'm asking you a bunch of questions. You're going to ask me some questions. Then I might say, to jump into discovery, I might go, hey, so David, what had you schedule a call with us, right? So then I talk and I start engaging. So David, we're going to assume that I've asked you a lot of questions about your goals. I've asked you a lot of questions about your family. I've asked you a lot of questions about your concerns. I've really exhausted discovery. And I've taken notes. By the way, if you guys aren't taking notes when people are telling you all this, you're really missing out because here's what you're going to do. After I feel like I've exhausted discovery and I literally can't think of any more questions to ask you, I'm going to say, hey, David, can I just repeat back to you everything I heard you say just to make sure I captured it correctly?
Sure.
Which that alone is going to blow people away because they're going to be like, wait, you actually listened? No one listens to me in the world we live in today. So and then you're going to repeat back to them almost word for word, verbatim what you heard them say, which will blow them away. And you're going to say, did I capture that correctly? And they're going to go, yeah, you did. Then I'm going to say, man, David, first of all, thank you for sharing all that with me. Second, man, I really believe that like we could help you with this. I guess the question I have is this something you've decided that you're going to do something about? You're just looking for the right person to help you? Or are you still trying to decide if this is something you want to do something about or not?
Just trying to decide what to do.
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So if David gives me now, obviously if David goes, yeah, I've already decided like this is now I'll pause there. Why do you think I might want to ask that question? Why would I be interested to know if this is something they've decided they're going to do something about? They're just looking for the right person, or if they're still trying to decide.
Commitment. You're she's serious about partnering with someone.
Yeah. And I'm not asking it for me though, you guys. I'm asking it for them to hear themselves say what they're committed to, whether they worked, because still don't know at this point if they're working with me or not. That feels like a salesy question, but I'm not asking that question to make a sale. I'm asking that question to serve them and help them get clear and committed to like, are you going to do all these things you just told me about? All these goals and dreams and challenges and concerns. I'm trying to help you get committed to your own self. Are you going to do something about this? And if they go, I'm still trying to decide, I don't get flustered by that. It doesn't throw me off. You saw me, David. I go, yeah, tell me more about that. I just go right back into discovery. And I exhaust discovery again. Then I'll say something like, another great question that closes. I'll say, so David, man, thank you for that. I guess the question I have is staying the same an option for you?
No.
Which is the answer you get every single time. But sometimes you got to help people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You got to be bold enough to help people get committed. Again, I'm not trying to sell you something yet. So then I might say staying the same an option for you. And you go, no, it's like, okay, so maybe you are committed to doing something about this. Yes. Awesome. Now I don't go into the pitch though. I'm not asking that question to see if it's time to go into my pitch. I'm asking that question to see if you are committed to yourself and committed to doing something. So it's like, man, but again, do you see how you have to earn the right to ask that kind of question? I can't be talking to you for 5 minutes and then go, oh, hey, so Brian, so do you want to do something about this? You're just looking for the right person to help you with it? Or do you still trying to decide? They're going to be like, dude, you don't even know me. But you want them, so first question we ask, does that sound fair? Micro commitment and framing. At the end of discovery, we repeat back to them everything we heard. And it's like, so I guess my question, Brian, is have you decided this is something you're going to do something about? Like you're ready to take action on this? You're just looking for the right person to help you? Or are you still trying to decide if this is something you want to do? And if they go, I don't know if I want to do something about it. Yeah. Tell me about it. Tell me more about that. Or I might say, I might be bold and go, what has you not know if you want to do something about this? If they say, and then I have that other question that closes, which is staying the same an option for you? If I ask, hey, is this something you've decided you want to do something about? You're just looking for help. And they go, yeah. We had a sales call with a financial advisor yesterday. I framed up the conversation, told him what we were going to do, told him I would add value to him whether we work together or not. Does that sound fair? He said, yes. I did a little bit of discovery. Mason, it was more of like we only had 10 minutes. I think we only had 15 minutes on the calendar. I'm only there to see if we should meet again. I did a little bit of discovery. Hey, tell me what's working. Tell me what isn't. Tell me what you want to do. Like you can do a lot of discovery in 10, 15 minutes if you are intentional about it. So he told me and then I repeated back to him. I have the notes right here. I said, okay, so it sounds like you want to differentiate yourself. Sounds like you want to stand out. You want to do more comprehensive planning. Right now, your biggest concern is you know that you blend in and sound like every other advisor. You know that you're trying to serve too many people. You haven't developed a niche. So you really want to get focused. You want to be different. I'm just repeating back everything I heard. Does that sound right? He's like, yeah, that sounds right. I was like, and his name's Lamont. I go, so Lamont, is this something you've decided like you want to do something about this? And you're ready to take this on? You're just looking for the right person to help you with it? Or is this like, you're still trying to decide if this is something you're willing to tackle right now? He goes, no, dude, I'm going to do something about this. I was like, awesome. Well, man, I think we might be able to help you with this. Would it be meaningful if we set up another call? He's like, yeah, absolutely. So we have a call tomorrow. Now, if someone says, yeah, I've decided I'm willing to help, I'm willing to do something about this, like, man, that's awesome. Would it be okay if I shared with you a little bit more about how we work with clients and like the difference we make for them? And if they're like, yeah, I'm not closing them, right? At this point, I'm just sharing with them at a high level what we do and how we help people. And I'm keeping it very brief so that we can get to the next meeting. Okay. we've got only a few minutes left here. Questions, thoughts. I know we're just scratching the surface, but I wanted to. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
I was thinking, do you think that a to close approach is important? What I mean by that is to have 2 meetings before going for a close.
Totally depends on your business model and kind of your, what you do. I know some companies that are very effective with a 1-call close. I would say the majority of financial advisors we meet with have at least a 2 or 3 or sometimes even 4.
Yeah. Because here's the reason I'm asking. It's because my firm, we kind of have a 1-call close, 1 meeting close, sometimes 2 if needed, but we don't typically gather information and do like a deep discovery until after the close.
Yeah.
Well, notice a lot of other like comprehensive advisors, like they'll gather all the information, put together a proposal, and then do a close.
Yeah.
Like, with all the information. We gather the info after the close.
And well, so I guess one of the questions I would have for you personally, Brian, is how successful are you on those 1-call closes? Are you closing the majority of them at the end of that first meeting?
Well, I'm still discovering that because I haven't been doing this their process long enough to know, but
yeah,
apparently they're successful with it. But part of me thinks like, is it because of the proposal, or is it just because of their experience and because it's a strong referral, the gray hair?
I'll tell you this, the majority of the advisors that are trying to do a 1-call close end up having to do 2 or 3 meetings with them anyways, but it puts them on their heels because they tried to close them and they didn't. And now so I'll just tell you, like, we've embraced a 2-call close at our company. And we've just found, like, I love selling that way. To me, it's like, it's a more profound, more leadership driven way to close.
Yeah.
It allows you to demonstrate more value. And so that's a much bigger conversation. It's very nuanced. There's a lot of like strategy and a lot of questions I'd have to ask. But my feeling is, in this industry in particular, I would not, and I know firms do it successfully, I would not recommend a 1-call close.
And I guess like sometimes it'll take 2 calls, but I think the bigger question is, does the discovery happen before the close or after? Does the gathering of data happen?
Well, so those are 2 different things. There's discovery, which is getting to know them. Then there's the gathering of all their statements and their assets. And I also believe some firms try to provide too much value to make a close. Like I know some firms that'll build your entire written financial plan and invest like dozens of hours just to get someone to say yes. And then they'll lament on their end about like, man, so I think there's a fine line of not going for the close too soon before you've added enough value. But I also think sometimes you overdo it and you waste a lot of time.
Okay. And if anybody else has questions, hey, I don't got to take up the floor. Feel free to interrupt me.
No, you're good. And we've got, and James, I wanted to get to your question here because I know we only have 3 minutes left. So James, we work with, pretty much exclusively with financial advisors, wealth management firms, helping them build their brand and then bring it to life. So what I mean by build their brand, we work with advisors to help them get really clear on their identity, their story, their message, exactly who they're serving. And then we teach them how to go out and articulate that in their marketing, their website, their branding, and also their sales conversations. So I was a financial advisor over 10 years ago. And for the last 10 years, we've coached and consulted hundreds, if not thousands, of financial advisors. We occasionally have entrepreneurs or business owners who come to us outside of the wealth management space. Sometimes they're even referred to us by their financial advisor that are business owners. But that's primarily and if any of you are interested, I forgot to share our presentation today, which has a QR code in it. But Rob, what would be the best way for someone who wanted to learn more about what we do or book a call with our team? What would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the easiest way is just possibility.com/next. And I'll drop in the chat. So that's PSBLTY. Here, let me drop it real quick. Yeah, this is an opportunity. You can connect with us. And we also have a cool course called Clarity Code that helps you guys take some initial steps on putting some of these pieces together. And then, I will send out the replay for this session as well, so you guys can review it, take some more notes, and kind of digest a little bit more.
Last thing I'll say, it's not a question, but it's designed to be like a question. You ask these micro commitments. Does that sound fair? You ask, hey, is staying the same an option for you? Have you decided you're going to do something about this? You're just looking, like, these are powerful questions, right? Another thing to pay attention to is if you're doing discovery really well, which I mean getting to know them, a phrase you want to say a lot is, tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. I might say, tell me more about that 10, 20, 30 times in one conversation, because what I've found is I want people to go deeper. A lot of times people give us something really profound and then we gloss over it and go on to the next question, if that makes sense. Like, I can't tell you how many sales calls I've listened to for financial advisors where someone's like, a prospective client will tell this advisor something really meaningful about their life or what they want or a goal. And the advisor will go, oh, that's awesome. And then they go on to the next question. No, if they give you something of value and meaningful, you go, man, thank you for sharing that. Tell me more about that. I want to leave some money into my kids. Man, tell me more about that. My biggest concern is probably this. Tell me more about that. We got to go deeper with people. Why is that a concern for you? Here's another
Double click.
Yeah, here's another great question. When someone brings up a concern, how long have you been thinking about that? How long has that been a concern of yours? You got to help people realize how long they've been thinking about these things and how concerned they've been. No, James, we work with, over the last 10 years, we've worked with firms of all shapes and sizes. We work with firms that, like right now, we have a firm that has $7 billion in AUM, and we have firms that are exclusively insurance focused and a little bit of everything in between. So we work with insurance focused firms, AUM focused, and obviously more and more firms are becoming holistic. Okay, I wish I had more time. I've got to run to another meeting at 2:30, but we will be doing these every other week. But thanks you guys for showing up.
Thanks, Chris.
Awesome.
Well, that's a wrap on this Advisor Edge episode. If this episode pushed your thinking, share it with another advisor who could use the edge, and be sure to follow the feed so you never miss an insight. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember, possibility exists, limitation is created.